Okay, so I'm looking at on page 18 of the handout. I'm pretty sure I think that's Act 3, Scene 2. And so what I want to look at is we already looked at the part where the actors show up in Hamlet's extreme. Oh, by the way, if you haven't watched Hamlet the movie or read Hamlet the play, or at least read a Wikipedia summary of Hamlet, you're really going to need Hamlet. Otherwise, these videos are going to get boring and harder to watch, and they may already be hard to watch. So we'll see. Um, but what you're going to want to do, anyway, you got to do that. I don't know. One of the things that I find really frustrating about teaching online is if I had you in my class, we could all watch the movie together, and then I would know for sure that everybody watched it, right? Like you'd be in the room, but like at your house, because there's no quiz on Hamlet, there's no test on Hamlet, you might be like, I'm not going to spend 4 hours reading a Shakespeare play or watching a Shakespeare play or whatever, and I'm just going to, I'll get by, it's close enough. And then you're going to find yourself frustrated and bored and annoyed. But, go check out Hamlet. I think you're writing a lit major. You should know about Hamlet. All right, so let's take a look at it. So the players, the actors, arrive at the castle, and Hamlet's extremely excited to see them. He gets really into it. And he's been so sad and so depressed, but the actors really make him excited because Hamlet is really interested in questions of theater. Um, and that continues in Act 3, Scene 2, when Hamlet, he wants them to do a play that's going to show the way his uncle murdered his father in front of the uncle. And then he's going to check the uncle's reaction, and he's going to see, oh shit, if he freaks out, then that'll mean the ghost was telling me the truth. By the way, nowhere in the play does Hamlet suggest the ghost isn't telling him the truth. It seems like the only reason he's come up with this plan is because he just doesn't feel like murdering Claudius, and he wants to waste time and do other things that he's more interested in. And he's much more interested in philosophy. He seems to have these big philosophical speeches, and then also he's more interested in theater and the actors. Like, is he really testing? It just seems like he's wasting time. Is he really testing? Is he really like, maybe Claudius didn't really do it? Like, you never said that before the actors arrived, but now that the actors are here, you're like, I'm going to use the actors to test my uncle, and also I'm going to write some new dialogue, and I'm going to help with this play. And then he goes to the rehearsals, and he starts giving them advice, which is crazy because they're professional actors, and he's a prince. And so why the hell does he know so much about acting? He has strong opinions on what actors should do. And also, he is incredibly knowledgeable. And you saw that already when the first player, the actor, delivers that big speech. Hamlet's, could you do this speech? And then he like recites this massive thing that he's got memorized. Like, he's not even a professional actor. Why does he have that memorized? And then, and you'll see the same thing happen here, where Hamlet talks to the actors, and he uses a lot of technical terms called jargon. Jargon is like the vocabulary associated with a particular job, like being a mechanic or a surgeon, right? Surgeons will be like, give me that, scalpel, stat. And then normal people don't say stat, but surgeons say stat. It's like part of that world. So Hamlet loves words, and he loves vocabulary. It's one of the reasons I like him, because I'm a nerd who likes vocabulary. But he loves words and he loves vocabulary, and he really wants to. He knows a lot. And so when he talks to the actors, he's not just like telling them what to do, but just kind of being an asshole because he doesn't know what he's talking about. He kind of does know what he's talking about. He's actually very, very clever, and he knows a lot of things. We'll talk more about this. One of my favorite things about Hamlet, the character, is he's very curious about everything. He learns about things. Unfortunately, all of that learning causes him to be unable to do anything, but he's quite good at sort of learning stuff. So in this scene, which is on page 18 of the copy that I gave you guys, but on page 18, Act 3, it's the beginning of Act 3, Scene 2. He's in the middle of giving a big speech to the actors about giving a big speech. So he tells them, "Speak the speech, I pray you, as I pronounced it to you, trippingly on the tongue. But if you mouth it, as many of our players do, as if lief the town crier spoke my lines." Meaning, if you're going to shout the play, and a lot of actors seem to do a lot of shouting, I would really rather that the guy whose job it is to make announcements for the whole town was the actor, because he says don't act like the news. Hey, extra, read all about it. Don't deliver your lines shouting all the time. This is really funny, by the way, because if you've seen Kenneth Branagh's Hamlet, that guy shouts all the fucking time. So like this Hamlet, the character says, "Don't shout your lines," and then Kenneth Branagh, who plays Hamlet, shouts half of his lines. So okay, he just to be or not to be, that is the question. Not that speech, but he does shout other speeches. Yeah, okay. So he says, "Do not saw the air too much with your hand thus, but use all gently." He's telling them, don't overact. Like, don't, and I will get vengeance, right? Don't saw the air with your hand with big hand gestures. Um, and don't shout all your lines, and don't, do big things with your hands. Um, for in the very torrent, tempest, and, as I may say, whirlwind of your passion, you must acquire and beget a temperance that may give it smoothness, right? Even though you feel passionate in your heart, you have to act more smooth, not sort of yelling and shouting and pumping your fist in the air. Oh, it offends me to the soul to hear a robustious, periwig-pated fellow tear a passion to tatters, just shouting, to the very rags to split the ears of the groundlings, meaning he's so loud that the people who are close to the stage get their ears hurt. For who the most part are capable of nothing but inexplicable dumb shows and noise. The groundlings these were the seats where you had to stand very close to the stage, and they were the cheap seats. And he says the people that get those, they don't even know what good acting is, so they love it when you shout and stomp around. And he doesn't want them doing that, because his play is supposed to be good and fancy for fancy people to like. So don't just stomp the ground and yell and scream. That's what the regular everyday people like. But Hamlet wants to get fancy people who know what they're talking about to like him. I would have such a fellow whipped for o'erdoing termagant. It out Herods Herod. These two characters, Herod's from the Bible. Termagant, I think, is an ancient Roman play character. I have to look it up. I think he's like a tyrant. The point is that those are two famous roles where actors tend to overdo it. They shout and they scream because the characters are big. And I'm sure you can think of examples from movies where characters are big, screamy, shouty lunatics. Hannibal Lecter is a little bit like that in the movies, where he's kind of overdone. He's always talking like this. Al Pacino tends to act quite a bit like that, with these big shouting and screaming and raving and things. And Hamlet says, don't do that. Please don't do that. And the player says, yes, I'm paying attention. Like, you're right. But so he tells him to sort of calm down, don't overdo it. But then he says, don't be too calm. Be not too tame neither, but let your own discretion be your tutor. Right? Use your intelligence to act. He says, suit the action to the word to the action. Right? The way you act should match the words, and the words should match the way that you act. Suit the action to the word to the action, with this special observance. Here's the important part for Pope: that you o'erstep not the modesty of nature. He says nature has set limits. So try to follow those limits. Try to act the way a normal person would act. Whatever you do, even if you have to shout or scream, if you get angry, try to get angry the way a real person would get angry, not the way a cartoon character gets angry. Right? Whatever you have to do, don't overstep. Don't overstep the modesty of nature. Right? Nature has set limits. Follow those limits. Be realistic, is what he's saying. Because a lot of actors, it's time and also today, don't act realistically. They just shout and scream and pump their fists and yell and make big crazy faces. And he's like, don't do that. That's not natural. That's not realistic. And Hamlet's telling him to be realistic. For anything so or done is from the purpose of playing, right? If you overdo it, that's not the purpose of playing, of being an actor. If you overdo it, that's getting away from the whole point of being an actor. And he's going to say what the point of being an actor is. Whose end, both at the first and now, was and is to hold, as 'twere, the mirror up to nature, to show virtue her own feature, scorn her own image, and the very age and body of the time his form and pressure. This is one of the most famous statements in all of Shakespeare. Is that he says the aim of acting is to hold a mirror up to nature. The aim of playing meaning being an actor, is to hold a mirror up to nature. Nature here means reality. So he says the whole point of art is that it's a reflection of reality. So here he is agreeing with Pope and sort of with Plato. Hamlet doesn't think it's a bad thing to copy reality, but Plato thinks art is a copy of reality. Pope thinks art is a copy of reality. Plato thinks art is a copy of reality. And Hamlet here says that he also thinks that art is a copy of reality. The way he says it is to hold a mirror. Art is a mirror that you hold up to nature. So if the world is bad, you show them how bad they are, and hopefully they can learn by looking at it. If there are good people in the world, you want to show those people in your play, and maybe people can learn to be better people when they see good people up on stage, because it's a reflection of the world that they live in. He wants it to be connected to reality, to reflect reality. Show virtue. Blah blah. Said that. Okay. And the age and body of the time, his form and pressure. It's reflecting like the whole culture. right? That the idea is that Shakespeare's plays, for example, one of the things people will say about Shakespeare's plays, this is not my favorite thing people say about Shakespeare's plays, but you can do it. People do it, not me, but other people. That Shakespeare's plays reflect the time and place in which they were written. So that when you read Shakespeare's plays, you're really getting into the mind of someone in England in 1600, because the play, even though the play takes place in Denmark in 1100, Hamlet's point is that the audience for the play gets to see their own age, the era in which they live, the time and place that they live is captured by art. And a lot of people will tell you this, that if you study the art of, oh, you know what, this video went way over and I forgot. Okay, I'll see you in the next video. Sorry.